Hello and happy Friday. Welcome to Boilermaker Lounge. I am Sam Springer, as always, joined by Grant Flora. Grant, wonderful week up to this point, and we are officially no more months until basketball.
That's right. I was just thinking about that when Wednesday hit. It is officially October, and what's the date of that Kentucky exhibition? Is it the 26th?
24th. Or is it the
24th.
26th? Is it the 20? It
I
might
think
be
you're
the
right.
26th.
I was just spitballing. Hold on.
I,
Let's pull it up real
I
quick.
will look it up while we chat here. Yeah, we are let's say around 3 weeks before the uh Purdue basketball season officially starts with their exhibition at Rupp Arena. So yeah, great. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's one of those where it's like I'm just excited to see Purdue back in uniform, on that court against a good team, like seeing Omer Meyer in uniform, Antoine West get out and play, Jack Benter, the new guys, and
Yep.
Bluff and Murphy and all them for that matter. But just seeing this roster come together and go out and get some game action is going to be super fun. To be honest, I'm not sure I expect them to win that game. But I also know that it doesn't matter at all because look back the last 2 years, the way they use those early exhibitions tends to be beneficial for the rest of the season.
They
But
use it as a
it's
very
exciting,
structured practice, basically.
right?
You know, a game structured practice because you see different rotations, different players coming in. Yeah, like last year they play. And by the way, I did look it up. It is the 24th, so 3 weeks from today at 6 p.m. Eastern time at Rupp Arena on the SEC network. So I'm not sure. I've got to look. I think I might have a football game, but I don't know. Am I calling sick? I don't know.
That'll be the night before meet for me.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
I can
Well,
Grand
S-
Rapids, but
SEC network. Just as long as you've got the access to that, you're
oh
good
yeah,
to go. But they've used the exhibitions like last year. They went to Creighton. The one thing I do like with Coach Painter is he takes them on the road to their big name. Like you think 2 years ago, Arkansas, last year Creighton, this year Kentucky. They're all on the road, and they're places that get loud and disruptive.
yeah, oh yeah. It, especially like I remember 2 years ago, Bud Walton, like Arkansas ended up having a terrible year.
Yeah,
But
but
I
they were
thought
they
after
were
that
supposed to have a
exhibition,
decent year.
yeah,
They
and I
were
thought
they
after
were
that
fun.
exhibition they were going to be a top 10 team. And Bud Walton was rocking. It was a really tough game for Purdue. They still forced overtime, and it was a great game. But yeah, that was a crazy experience for an exhibition
Yeah.
to start off your season. So, um,
Well, like and that was an unusual game because that was the first time they'd hit the court since they got beat by FDU as a team, and so that was they struggled to kind of get back into it, but then they recovered nicely for the season. So, uh, but
yeah,
we've got some recruiting news here this week, Grant. Since we were last on the air, the Boilermakers have gained a commitment and they lost out on two potential other ones. They gained Rivers Knight, a player from he's at La Lumiere in LaPorte, Indiana. But I think I forget where he's originally from. I don't have the information pulled up right now, but um, a nice add, a 3-star recruit for Matt Painter and the Boilermakers. But then just later this week or earlier this week, they lost out on Ralph Scott and Bo Ogden. We will talk about Rivers Knight here in a minute, but let's talk about the two that went elsewhere. Bo Ogden, we're not really surprised he went to Texas, are we?
no, we're not. I didn't like do a ton of digging on him before the commitment. But it sounded to me afterwards like, yeah, he was always looking at Texas as his primary option. Even though like I feel like Purdue has been in the mix for a while and had started to
Mm-hmm.
build a relationship. Yeah, it was always going to be Texas, and there really shouldn't be too surprised on that. And Texas is a good program. Camden Heide, of course, transferring from Purdue to Texas, so
Yep.
they'll be an interesting team to watch these next couple of years, especially just as I believe Sean Miller is their coach now, right?
Yes. Yep. He's
Yeah.
the new
So
coach there. Yep. Yeah, I'm not.
really
I'm not
interesting to
going
see
to
how he
yell
develops.
nepotism. I'm not going to yell nepotism, but his dad is the GM of the men's basketball team. So
Okay.
it definitely was not a surprise. I was trying to find a place where I could watch the announcements of Ralph Scott and Ogden at the same time that I had the Cubs playoff game on, and so I texted our buddy Dustin Schutte, and he gave me the information on Ralph Scott, and he says, I'm not sure about Bo Ogden. I'll get back with you. Well, then he texts me back. He goes, I guess it might be telling of where he's going, but it's on the Texan Live. So, and they
Yeah.
base their stuff on like University of Texas, news, for sports and stuff. So I think it was kind of telling that, he chose to broadcast it off of that, kind of was a giveaway that he was, going to Texas. But that
Yeah.
one didn't surprise me as much. He was I believe, number 38 in the class coming in, and would have been an excellent ad. I think he would have fit in with what he does. But Ralph Scott, he announced that he's going to Tennessee, so I can surmise that he's probably going to have at least 4 losses in his 4-year career if he stays, because they normally play Purdue and they normally lose.
Yeah. Yeah, just an interesting situation for sure. It seemed like Purdue, despite the late involvement in Scott's recruitment, were actually kind of leading, and it was leaning towards Purdue. And then um, it was around the time Rivers Knight committed. A lot of people don't think it was related to the Rivers Knight commitment, but he made the pivot of moving his commitment day up from a Friday to the Tuesday. And then from that point onwards, the rumblings from the people on the inside who kind of knew a little bit more about it than what the rest of us did, basically said the expectation was that he was going to go to Tennessee. And so um, it was still maybe a little surprising, but at that point, it was like, okay, Tennessee probably is the top contender for Scott right now. But before that, it was Purdue. So, yes, it was definitely a situation where, as a Purdue fan and as Purdue as the program, probably thought they had a really good shot with Ralph Scott. But then in the final hours up until his commitment, it looked like Tennessee kind of was in control and then ended up getting him, and it's going to be really interesting to see how he progresses with them. I think he's a good fit for both Tennessee and Purdue.
Yeah.
But you and I both agreed, like, it seemed like Purdue was the perfect option for him.
Mm-hmm.
But he's going to go to Tennessee and probably do well there too.
And get beat 4 times. Uh, yeah, because you and I were having the conversation the day of the announcement. So on Tuesday, I sent you a quote that I had seen, and I even posted a picture of a screenshot of the quote on X and Facebook, both saying that the only way that I'd be surprised with the Ralph Scott announcement was if he was not going to West Lafayette. That was the only surprise that I would had. And even then, I had somebody respond, well, you're prepare for disappointment. I said, I'm not disappointed. For one thing, Purdue's going to be just fine. They've got a recruiting class coming in that's really, really good, even though it's only three players big. But the screenshot was from an interview with Jamie Shaw on 3 back in July. He says, I'm looking for a developmental school that will not only allow my game to develop, but will push me to get to be as good as I can be. Sound familiar? That was what, and then I'll look at the academics. They have to have my major, and I want to major in engineering. That right there, and the fact that he took a Wednesday, or Purdue offered him late, and he immediately scheduled an official visit on a Wednesday afternoon. Like, who goes to visit a school officially on a Wednesday when other people are working? Normally it's the weekend, to where they can be doted on and have all, everybody kind of set up and go to a college football game, all that fun stuff. He went on a Wednesday. And that's why I was like, I was about 90% sure. Like, if I would have giving odds, it would have been 90-10. And it just, I was surprised that he went to Tennessee, but I was not in any way, shape, or form disappointed because you know what? Ralph Scott's going to realize some dreams is what he's doing.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like Purdue would be a good fit. It almost could be academically, maybe Purdue was too difficult. Their engineering program, like trying to be a
Right.
D1 college basketball player at the highest level and be an engineering major at Purdue would be a crazy combo.
Well, it's almost like
but
be a Purdue basketball player and be at pre-med school,
yeah,
like Caleb first was.
Yeah, it's not that it can't be done. It's just
Right. It's very difficult,
it's
though.
a hard path.
Yep, you've got to be dedicated to it.
Yeah. And then, you got to I'm going to give some credit here to Sleepers Media. If you're listening to us, you probably listen to them all the time. They do a great job covering recruiting. They really do the research and get credible, valuable stuff there. But like they kind of made the point too, Tennessee had a great pitch as well. You look at what they did with Dalton Connect, Chaz Lanier these past couple of years. Like they know how to develop guys, especially those like off guard / wings, to get them to the NBA and take them from, mid-major level for Lanier and Connect playing at mid-major schools and turn them into some of the best players in the country. So they had a great pitch as far as development. And you and I kind of talked about this earlier. Like, if you're going for one and done or two and done, trying to get to the NBA as quickly as you can, Purdue doesn't have that kind of a brand. They're the developmental team first type of culture, which is great. But for a recruit like Ralph Scott, I could see him leaning more towards a place like Tennessee. It's just in terms of trying to go pro quicker and be a little bit more successful in that way. Not to say I believe that he wouldn't have been able to do that at Purdue. It's just when you look at the brands, I think Tennessee would have the edge there.
And I'm not at all saying Purdue's got the market cornered on, development of players. But my from that statement was, basically let my game develop, but yet hold me accountable to what I'm doing, and that kind of just kind of screamed it. But, you're right. Tennessee, Rick Barnes is a great coach. He really is. I feel really bad about this much bad that he hasn't been to the Final Four with Tennessee. Because he went with Texas back with in the Kevin Durant era. I think it was the year before or a couple years after or something. He's been to the Final Four, but he hasn't been with Tennessee. He took Tennessee from basically for comparable, maybe like a Minnesota style of SEC team to one that's year in and year out competing for the SEC title. So he's got the it. He can develop just as well. But it just was a surprising thing. And you know what? You're right. It may be one of those that he saw a better chance to develop quickly into 1 to 2 years to be able to get out to the NBA. Jaden Ivey did it at Purdue, but normally Purdue doesn't bring guys in like that are going to leave after only a couple of years. And so it's a possibility that maybe that wasn't the fit. But obviously he was extremely interested, or that late offer wouldn't have gotten a visit, wouldn't have been in the top 4.
Right. And kind of back to what some of the insiders were saying about this recruitment, like it looked like he was leaning towards Purdue for a while up until the few days before, when he moves up his commitment, and all of a sudden Tennessee is back as the expectation. And then he goes to Tennessee. So like Purdue, the fact that Matt Painter was able to swoop in 3 weeks before he ends up committing and basically take the charge and be in front in the recruitment and have as good a chance as anyone was super impressive, because this is a top 40 prospect who is a unique player. Like anybody would have wanted him. Houston, Texas A&M were both in the mix. Obviously, when it came down to it, it looked like it was Tennessee and Purdue at the front. Houston and Texas A&M were never, I think, serious contenders by the time it came down to it on Tuesday. But like the fact that all these programs were involved, he was a highly touted prospect. Like for Matt Painter and Purdue to be in that mix and to have such an impact on him says a lot about Purdue and where their recruiting is at right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you can still take the benefit silver lining from this, even though he doesn't end up actually going to Purdue.
I will tell you, there was one sliver of hope right there while they were talking to Ralph Scott. And I don't know if you watched the announcement, but his mom was still in Aruba because there were hurricanes coming in and she couldn't fly to IMG with him to be there at the announcement. So they had her on a split screen. So Ralph is sitting there at IMG talking, and then his mom and family and a whole bunch of people it looked like a classroom were gathered. But when he made the announcement, there was a young man in the back holding up a Tennessee sign, like a paper Tennessee sign. Right before they went to ask Ralph where he was going, there was a kid in the background while they were talking to his mom that accidentally stood up too far, and it was a Purdue sign. And I said,
Wow.
whoa. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the memes of Leonardo DiCaprio sitting going, whoa, like while he's watching TV. That I did that. Like I pointed and said, Purdue sign. And that was a sliver of hope. And I think what they did was gave him 4 people each one of those signs. And whenever he announced the person that held the sign that he was going to, obviously Tennessee, holds it up and cheers. But there were some comments about the fact that maybe he didn't fit in with Purdue as much as we thought originally because of the way that his family was treating him like a client almost, rather than. And I don't know exactly. I'll be 100% honest. I was working while I was watching the announcement, so I was keeping one ear on the announcement, and I was doing some work. And obviously, I had the Cubs game on too. So I was doing that. I didn't notice that, but I did see that somebody had mentioned that it was almost like they were treating him as a client, like it wasn't, I'm so happy for my son. It was, this is what it's going to get. This is what we're going to gain from it. And if that's the case, I don't know that he wouldn't fit, or that he wouldn't fit, but I wish Ralph Scott the best. I hope he gets exactly what he and his family are hoping to get out of this. And I'm not at all disappointed that he's not coming to Purdue. I'm disheartened a little bit from the fact that we were front runners for the longest time, and we're not now. But the one thing that I did hear, another thing that I did hear, and I'll let you respond to all of this here if you want, that it's potentially Ralph Scott didn't want to go to a place that could potentially land Cameron Williams, who is the number 4 recruit on the list for 2026, and that Purdue is on the short list. But if Ralph Scott has some insider information of how close that maybe he just wanted to make sure he stayed away from a school that, because I guess they're really close in positions and stuff like that, and he didn't want to have playing time taken away.
Yeah, well, okay, first of all, when you go play Division I college basketball at this highest level that Ralph Scott is playing at, it is life-changing in a lot of ways.
Yep.
Especially now with NIL money. Like, you're actually making money, you're going to school for free. If he stays 4 years and you get that engineering degree or whatever he's looking at,
set for life.
Like, right. He's got that. Then you have the ability to go pro potentially and play basketball and make even more money. And especially if like your family comes from a situation where you don't have a lot of money, this can be a huge deal. So,
which, can I jump in real quick? This is the one
ahead, yeah.
positive that I see from NIL, because it keeps kids in school going after that, even when maybe their situation at home isn't the best financially. It doesn't require them to, file for hardship and go to the NBA and maybe not even get drafted, but that's what they've got to do. NIL, that's the one plus that I really love about NIL, is it keeps some of these borderline guys in school because they can make money.
Yeah. And so, like, I don't know what his family situation is or whatever like that, but and I don't know to what extent, like you were talking about the way he was being treated, like I don't have the knowledge to be able to discuss that at a level that would make a lot of sense because I just don't know.
Right.
And
and that's why I, full disclosure, said I only heard with one ear, the whole interview. So I don't even know myself.
But like, no matter what, no matter whether, you think he's being treated correctly or not, like, I can't really blame him or his family for any of that because this is such an incredible opportunity that, you want to think of like what makes the most sense for us, what can benefit him and his family the most, because that's super important to him and to his family.
Yep.
And so I would never come on here and blame anybody for doing that, whether or not I think it's the right approach or not. Like, I totally understand where that's coming from. So yeah, I guess all that to say,
I just brought that up because I saw it, so I figured we'd chat about it in a minute.
Right. Yeah. So I'll have to say, like, I can understand any of that sort of thing.
I've never been in the situation to where I've had a child that is uber talented to where, it could be life-changing in where they decide they're going to school. I don't know how I'd act when I got into that situation. I'd love to think that I'd be like, it's completely beholden on where you want to go, on things that will matter for you to succeed. But I don't know that, I just don't know that.
Yeah. Okay. And then onwards to the Cameron Williams situation. A couple of things. One, I'm not saying like that's not true. I'm just saying if it is true, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because Tennessee just brought in Nate Emmett, who's one of the top 5 recruits in the country, basically same tier as Cameron Williams.
Right.
His position. Let's see. I'm not super caught up on my Nate Emmett situation, but I don't think he's that much different of a player compared to Ralph Scott than what Cameron Williams is, in the sense that a playing time, Ralph Scott would expect more playing time next to Nate Emmett than Cameron Williams.
Emmett they're both is 6'10" and is a forward.
Yeah, and
Ralph
Cameron
Scott's
Williams
6'7".
Right, and Cameron Williams is a 4, right? Like,
I believe so, yes.
To me, Cameron Williams and Nate Emmett are pretty similar players. So it's like, if you're going to not go to Purdue because of Cameron Williams when they haven't even brought him in yet, and to be honest, it doesn't sound like Purdue is a front runner for Cameron Williams. They are still in the mix, but I don't think anyone is at this point expecting Cameron Williams to go to Purdue so you choose Tennessee, who already has solidified the commitment from Nate Emmett. To me, it doesn't make the most sense, but I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying, to me, it doesn't make as much sense. And Tennessee's not going to be as deep as Purdue, most likely, because we've talked for weeks about the depth Purdue's going to have, not just this year.
And maybe that played some into it, too.
Right. So definitely an interesting situation. It definitely could be something that has to do with Purdue having a deep roster, being a developmental program, and it just looked like Ralph Scott wasn't going to make the impact there, wasn't going to have his opportunity to shine as much for whatever reasoning he ended up deciding on. But yeah, Cameron Williams, I think if you're Purdue, you would love to get him because he fits that 4 spot.
Everybody should be.
Right. And he fits Purdue so well from what they would like to get. Because like you said, he's that 4. He's ready to play right away. He shows some athleticism and size that right now Purdue's freshman class is lacking. So definitely Purdue should be in the mix for him, but it just has sounded like from some of these recruiting people that do a lot of digging, know a lot of what they're talking about, that it's not expected for him to go to Purdue. He's probably expected to go elsewhere, like West Coast or something along those lines. So we'll see.
Maybe we shock the world and he does come to West Lafayette.
Right.
Experience winter in Indiana.
Yeah. And players make pivots all the time. Ralph Scott, case in point. So yeah.
Well, with the loss of those 2 commitments, and honestly, I really am serious. These guys are realizing dreams, is what they're doing. So congratulations on being able to do that. I'm not disappointed. I was hopeful to see you in Purdue black and old gold and black, but you know what? It is what it is. I hate kind of saying that statement in this facet, but we can't control where they go. And I talked about this when we were talking about all these offers that Matt Painter was throwing out. We're not going to get a lot of them. A lot of them are going to disappoint us, and I use the air quotes, disappoint us by going elsewhere. But that doesn't take away the fact that Purdue's in on the running. If there is a disappointment, we weren't having this 5 years ago, 3 years ago. Like this has been an influx recently to where Purdue is being considered by the top recruits, and that is a great position to be in. But away from those two, there are still a couple of names in that. Ogden and Scott are both kind of that stretch three, that 3 to 4. Like they could play the 4 if they needed to, but they're going to be a 3 position. There are still a couple of guys that the Boilermakers are going after, and Anthony Thompson, a 5-star forward, and then a 4-star wing at Colbin Landrew. They're both still out there. They're both still they're Purdue offers, and both are still giving Purdue serious consideration for both of those. I guess Landrew's more of a somebody that would take Fletcher's spot. I say Fletcher's spot, but with competing with all the other guys that are there, and then Thompson would be one that would compete for TKR's spot. And those are a couple of really good players that have been there. But then we also have Cameron Williams, like we just mentioned, still in the running, giving Purdue consideration as well. I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, there's definitely some options there. It's kind of like Cameron Williams, where it's like Purdue's in the mix, but I don't think they're the front runner for any of these guys.
Right.
They're just still on those lists. So like we said, recruits make pivots all the time. There could at any moment be a pivot where guys like, okay, I think Purdue is my front runner, ends up making a commitment, goes to Purdue and shocks the world. Like any of that is still possible. At the same time, it's very possible Purdue doesn't get any of those guys. If that's the case, Purdue's still fine. Like they have 3 recruits in their class right now. 2 of them are very highly rated, and Luke Ertle and Jacob Weber, and should be able to come in and be really solid additions right away. Rivers Knight is also not a bad player at all. It may be a red shirt, it may be a bench role right away, and he works into the point where he's a starter and makes a big impact on the team, or maybe he's a big impact right away. Doesn't matter. They've got 3 guys that can come in and contribute to the program over the course of 4 years. If they don't get any more, they probably are just going to hit the portal at the end of this season, if we're being honest. And Paint has done a great job in the portal this past offseason, especially. You look at, Oscar Clough, Liam Murphy, all those guys. I think those are actually their only 2.
I'm going historically. Jenkins the year before that, right? Like he picks and chooses very well from the portal.
And so if they don't replace everybody they're losing with freshmen, and if they happen to lose a couple guys to the portal after this season, that's potentially 4 or 5 spots they have to fill in the portal. And we know Paint hasn't used the portal a ton these last couple years. Like this past year was the most he's ever used it, and he only brought in 2 real transfers.
Right.
But if you need 5 guys on your roster, you're going to go out and fill them with 5 transfers, because that's what you have left as an option when the season ends. And I think while Matt Painter, has traditionally been known for not hitting the portal super hard, if you got to fill 5 roster spots, you're going to fill 5 roster spots. And I would love to see what he can do with the brand of his program, especially if they come off a huge season, potential national championship, Final Four, Big Ten champion, whatever the case may be, and go out and search for 5 transfers that are ready to play immediately and are coming as either high valuable mid-major players or high major players that already have huge experience. Like he could do a lot of damage in the portal that way if he has the flexibility with the roster spots. So I am starting to view this as like would have been a great fit to pick up a guy like Ralph Scott, but it also just gives him more options down the road.
Mm-hmm. You got to look at also that they still have offers out to big men. I mean, at one point, I think we counted or had seen that they had like 6 or 7 offers to big men for next year's class. Now, some of them have sifted Purdue off of their lists. I know Arafan Diani took him off their list. He's looking like he could go to Houston, but UConn's still in there. and I believe Kentucky is still in there. I don't think he's narrowed it down to a Final Four list unless I just have missed it. Um, excuse me. But some of these guys are going to consider Purdue, because why wouldn't you, with the track record that Purdue's had with seven footers, or big men? We'll just say big men, and they just happen to be normally over 7 foot tall. So you've got that. But let's say they don't offer, or add anyone else, Grant. They've still got a top 10 recruiting class with just the 3 that they've brought in. That is absolutely huge to me, because that means the quality, the evaluated quality of those players that they're getting is so high that, yes, they've got only 3, but they have brought in the top 10, a top 10 level of talent overall.
Right. That's huge. I think another guy you're talking about, the big men, Sinan Juan, is one
Yes.
that actually people really think Purdue has a great chance to get.
That's the kid from China, correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
And people have said there's a great chance Purdue gets him. So there's another guy you throw into that class who's a solid big, probably developmental type situation, but I think obviously of Zach Edey, and it's like, there's no reason why this guy can't become a huge piece of what Purdue does in the future. Right. And just adding another player to that class would be pretty cool, especially a big man, when Purdue is going to be all right in the front court after this year with Jacobson and Burgess and even like Jack Benter. But adding a big that will be able to take over once Jacobson's gone and once some of these guys move on, will be good for the Purdue front court developmental program. So there's some light there. Like, it's not like Purdue is most likely just going to stick with a 3-person class. I think one way or another, there's a good shot they get at least one more.
I agree.
But like you said, if they only have 3, they're still a great class.
Yeah. And you add anybody, you're going to only bump that class value up even higher. It doesn't matter if they come in as a 2-star. I don't even know if they give 2 stars, but only a 2-star recruit, that's going to bump it up just a little bit more. I mean, it's definitely one of those things that I haven't seen ever in my life when it deals with Purdue. They've never. I was around when the Fab Five came to Michigan, and that was like a huge thing. 5 freshmen, and look what they've left a legacy. Purdue's, well, hey, they've got some good recruits coming in. Now we're looking at Purdue's got a top 10 recruiting class to build on top of. Yes, it's going to be depleted from this year, on top of a team that potentially could be a Final Four national championship caliber team, and you rebuild with the top 10 recruiting class. It's insane and incredible and wonderful to see happening. And that's why I've gotten to the point where I trust the coaches and Matt Painter, that they're doing the things that are going to make Purdue a good program, not just a flash in the pan one year. They're building it to where we're going to be talking about Purdue being a top tier level team, not winning the national championship every year, but being in contention for a Final Four more years than not.
Yeah, like, you can't forget about the depth the team already has. Like, they're not going to be relying on that many freshmen next year.
Right.
Like, let's be honest. They've got a lot of guys that should come back. If they hit the portal, it just means Purdue can go hit the portal and bring in more guys to substitute that, like they did this year. And they just have so much depth. Guys like Jakari Harris, CJ Cox, Omer should be back. And even like, guys like Jack Benter and whatnot, like, they're going to be fine. It might even be something where some of these recruits are looking at what they already have, what they're going to come in return next year, and they're like, it's just going to be too much of a fight. Maybe that's what it was for Ralph Scott. Like, the guys like Jakari Harris and CJ Cox, and it's like, I'm not sure I can even outplay those guys in my first year, which means
because they're that good,
that much, right? And so I just should go to Tennessee, where there's going to be more openings. Like, and if that's the case, then that's great because it means Purdue's going to be good. And ultimately,
Right.
that's what Matt Painter, the coaching staff, and the fans really care about is how good is this Purdue team going to be? And if we're going to be good enough to where a recruit that we would like to get is going to go elsewhere because of how good we're going to be, then we're going to be fine.
And I don't think that it would happen, but the last thing you want is to have so much talent to where guys are fighting with one another simply because there's not enough playing time and enough spots for all these fantastic and talented players. I think that's another thing that Matt Painter is cognizant of. You don't want to overload. You don't want an all-star. You don't want to overload your team with absolute one-star or number one player style players, and not have any role players, because that's when you get infighting and you all of a sudden you can't run your offenses. You can't run you don't have your culture that you're used to. So I think that maybe it's because we don't hear about what offers get rescinded as soon as somebody commits. I'm sure every time somebody commits, there's some of those offers that schools have put out that get rescinded, and you don't know that they are, and that's why Purdue or whatever school A gets taken off of somebody's list because they landed somebody. And I'm looking at, I've looked at, we're going to talk about him here, but Rivers Knight, he's 6'8", he's a forward, he's got that kind of, that's Ralph Scott's measurements. You know what I mean? And so I'm not saying it had anything to do with it, but maybe with the him and potentially Cameron Williams added in, that was somewhere he didn't want to go because he saw maybe a backlog, or maybe the fact that you don't want to have to compete as much. I don't know, but that maybe that was some of the decision for Ralph Scott as well.
Yeah, it could be. If it were me, it's like Ralph Scott probably would play over Rivers Knight.
Sure.
Sure. So I don't think if you're Ralph Scott, you should have been too scared of that or anything.
But Matt Painter does develop really well.
Right. And it's still just other guys in your position where you're like, I just don't want to have to compete. And that's fine.
You're not going to be able to play 40 minutes a game, buddy.
Right. So, but yeah, Rivers Knight was definitely a good pickup. He's a good shooter. He's going to be a really good stretch four. And he just he trusts Purdue's recruiting and development. This could be another hidden gem type of player.
I was going to mention you said that because that's a very astute thing that you noticed there and said, because you're right, it could be.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people have already said he's underrated. I've seen that in just some of the stuff I've looked at. He's a 6'8" forward that Purdue has been able to do very well with those types of players like Takeoff and Wren, and even like Caleb Furst. While he was just a solid role supporting player the whole time he was at Purdue, and it's not like he was ever a star, but from day one he was a starting lineup type of guy. Come in, he was even knocking down shots originally. Purdue has been able to utilize these guys very effectively, and I see no reason why Rivers Knight can't do the same thing. Now, it might be a redshirt year. Just to be honest, he's a 3-star recruit coming in. Purdue's going to be deep. He might be a guy that redshirts, kind of like Riley Burgess. But I think over the course of time, if not sooner rather than later, he becomes a contributor to this Purdue team and is a guy that, again, as a 3-star recruit coming in, he's not someone that was really on anybody's radar. When we talk recruiting, I never really even looked at Rivers Knight as one of those guys, and the next thing you know, he's committed from La Lumiere, and he's a guy that I think people are talking about potentially making an impact at Purdue.
He's number 239 overall on the prospect list for 2026.
Right. So not a guy that you look at and you start talking about Purdue recruiting and you're like, wow, this is one of their
it's a big
top prospects.
Right.
But then he comes in and you're like, your whole perspective changes simply because he's going to Purdue and simply because you start looking at what Purdue has done and you're like, wow, maybe this is someone we should have looked at a little harder. So I'm excited to see what he turns into. It's, not the same as a Ralph Scott committing where it feels like this huge, big program situation. But at the same time, like we've seen Purdue do a lot more with a lot less. So
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
it's just huge to get some of these guys back into the program.
He was at Jordan High School in Durham, North Carolina for his junior year. He has transferred to, like you said, La Lumiere in LaPorte, Indiana. For his junior season at Jordan High School, he averaged 17.4 points per game, 10.2 rebounds per game. He also averaged 4 blocks, 2.1 per assists per game, and I do believe that he swept the floors after every game as well. Like, it seems like he was doing just about everything at Jordan High School. But he's transferred to La Lumiere, and you know what? Very possible this could be a Luke Ertle style type of development when you get into into a season. Now, is he going to jump up to the top 100? No, probably not. But you know what? He could jump up to a top 200 in the process of his senior year, and that makes him look even more like more of a higher recruit. When it comes in, when he comes in and hits campus finally. So definitely somebody, like you said, that 6'8", the development. Purdue does a great job at that. He could fit in. Yes, he could redshirt. We know nothing about what's coming in about that, and we won't know anything until they hit campus and they start, actually doing stuff with the team once they're there. So that's still at least a year. Like, we don't even know what's going on with this year's potential red shirts and stuff. That we think there's a chance that Burgess red shirts. We don't know that though. There's a chance that player B can. We just don't know, and that's going to develop here in the next couple of weeks. So definitely, I like you. I didn't know much about Rivers Knight until we saw him commit. Like, it was like, really? I didn't even know that this was a potential guy. But the more I looked at him, I'm like, oh, he does things well.
Yeah, and you said he's from Durham. Like, I don't think North Carolina or Duke were super involved in his recruitment at all, and he
No,
was right in their backyard.
His 4 schools or 5 schools that were on the list other than Purdue. So he commits to Purdue, but he had offers from Illinois, LSU, VCU, Mississippi State, and High Point. Not taking anything away from those last 4 schools, but those are 4 schools that are a little bit lower rung when it comes to the SEC or mid-major, I guess, when it comes to High Point and VCU. But and they were on their radar. Those were his schools, so that were offered. Those were the highlights of his schools that were offered. So yeah, North Carolina and Duke didn't even know about him and have him on their list, at least that we can tell.
Yeah, I mean, kind of feels more like a Braden Smith situation to me, where it's like, this guy is probably going to be a little bit more loyal to Purdue. He's going to be willing to work and develop, and it's like, there's no reason why he couldn't become not just a role player, but like a focal point on this team if he does
the work. He could be a TKR-ish style of player.
Right. Yeah, like there's no reason why that can't be the case. It's not saying like that he's expected to be the case. I don't think he's expected to be like an All-American type player necessarily, but like, the beauty about Purdue's program is they could take these type of guys and turn them into that if they need to, or if they, have the opportunity, and it's a good mesh of this guy has hidden talent and we have the development program. But like, anytime a guy like this, especially a guy that's like a forward front court type of player where Purdue's had so much success, like it just raises the ceiling of what this class is capable of.
Yep. So welcome to the family, Rivers Knight, and be prepared to bust your butt and maybe go through some Navy SEAL training once practice starts, which to me is an amazing thing. That team, you didn't, and granted, I'm sure, I'm absolutely positive we got the best pictures possible. But there were guys that were like, you could tell they were working hard, but they didn't look beaten down. Like, they looked like they were driven. Yeah, that's hard training. Yeah, that's absolutely hard. But you know what? You learn to work with one another, and I think that's exactly what the basis was. Is Let's get you guys working right now from as soon as we can start practicing, get you guys working together and carrying a log for however long they had to carry it, and things like that. And they enjoyed it. Now, did they like it? Maybe not, but they enjoyed the fact that they were working together. That's going to go a long ways. I love the fact that they put them through Navy SEAL training.
Yeah. And honestly, those guys look so good doing that stuff.
Oh yeah,
Like they just look like, yeah, this is a Purdue type of thing to do.
Yep.
These guys are just such a tight group of guys, tight team, and they're gonna be ready to work come season and
Yep.
come game time. So yeah, that was a really cool thing that they did, and I don't know like how Matt Painter got that arranged. I don't even know if he was there. Like none of the photos I don't think show.
I didn't
Matt
see him
Painter
in any of
there,
them. Now that doesn't
but
mean he wasn't behind the scheduling of it, but I didn't see him in any of the photos.
oh yeah, I'm sure he was involved in arranging it. I just
Right.
yeah, like he might not have even been there, but yeah, it's
How do you
definitely
go
gonna
about
be,
that? Do you call the Navy and say, "Hey, we need some Navy SEAL training going on here," or what? Like,
yeah,
who do you have to
I wouldn't be
know?
surprised if he probably knows somebody. I mean, he's Matt Painter, he's been in the business long enough. Like he probably has some sort of connection, but yeah, it's pretty cool. I forgot what I was gonna say, but yeah, just pretty cool experience. I think oh yeah, it was like Braden Smith or somebody was talking about kind of the benefit of that exercise, and he was kind of just like, I think it's more of a team bonding thing than
Yeah.
anything, and like even if they didn't like become a completely different team in the sense that they're like all these strong Navy SEALs now because they went through this day of training, like there's something that bonds you as a team, and will continue to build that foundation as they get going on the season.
Yeah, it's I'm getting every day that passes, Grant, I'm getting more and more excited about what's coming up in 3 weeks from today. We're seeing Purdue in uniforms. This year's team is hitting the court, granted to exhibition, but they're hitting the court to play some ball. And they're unveiling the 2025-26 Boilermaker team, and that's really exciting to think about. And programming note, more than likely next week's show will be a compilation of what we you and I will be in the studio together because we will be at the Big Ten Media Days in Rosemont, Illinois on Thursday. So what we're hoping is maybe to get a couple of sit downs. They did announce that TKR and Braden Smith will be the two featured players to be on the podium for Purdue. Now, last year, Matt Painter brought Caleb First and TKR with Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer. They were the two featured, and then TKR and Caleb First were there. So there's a good possibility there might be more Boilermakers there. Maybe try to get a chance to chat with some of them. It might be a compilation of us just talking about what we've talked to with them. Maybe they are included depending on time availability and things like that. So that's all kind of up in the air, but really excited to go to media days.
Yeah, should be a super cool experience. Not just seeing the Purdue guys, but all of the Big Ten coaches and some of the players will be there. So everybody will be in the same room. Everybody will be going through the media process, and just a good chance to get a little bit more information, engage with these players and teams before the seasons actually get going. So kind of a fun way to jumpstart the season.
It's a nice way to use a football statement of kicking off the basketball season is going to I guess I could use a basketball one and say tip off, but just a way to be able to for us media to be able to kind of get some sound bites and get some questions asked that we've maybe been thinking about that we get these guys to talk about. And I anticipate Purdue's crowd to be, or the crowd around Coach Painter and the players to be a little heavier since they're one of the top three teams in the expected in the league. Braden Smith, I would assume, is going to be the preseason player of the year in the Big Ten, and probably one of the top. I've seen multiple places. He's the front runner to be National Player of the Year, And that's not saying it's a guarantee, but that right there brings a lot of people in to chat to him with him. So there will be a lot of people around him. But we will get our questions. I know we will get our questions because I'm just that type of guy that I'm gonna cut somebody off while they're trying to ask a question to get my question in. And I've got a loud voice, so they tend to hear my voice. So
there you go. Yeah, it's gonna be definitely looking forward to working with that.
Yep, absolutely. So, all right. Well, that's the end of this week's Boilermaker Lounge. Such an exciting time. No more months without Purdue basketball. We are in the throes. And granted, we've got a quiet couple of weeks, but we're in the throes of what will be hopefully a really big season to remember with Purdue basketball. So thanks so much for joining us this week on the Boilermaker Lounge. For Grant Flora, I'm Sam Sprunger. We'll see you next week.